another game. Oh, there goes Duke. Oh, you just kind of see it like a they don't care attitude. But you got Coach Diaz, who literally is Miami. Like if you envision the city of Miami, you kind of look at Coach Diaz. He's from there. He went through the rich tradition that Miami was known for. He understands what the city of Miami breeds. And, I don't expect a national championship this season, but I do expect to go to the ACC title game. And I only say that because all bias aside, you can take the fan out of me. If you look at the talent on the rosters, there's nobody the rest of the season besides Florida State that compares to Miami.
Okay.
And I don't like to predict rivalry scores just because a rivalry can go either way.
Right.
It's just always up in the air, especially in the state of Florida. And, just the rest of the schedule, the other 10 games left, just talent-wise, is not there. Miami's just out-recruited those other 10 teams, which obviously you got the Bethune-Cookmans and Central Michigans, okay, cool. Those teams should be cupcake games, which Miami will face week 3 and week 4. But North Carolina, Duke, Georgia Tech, like I'm watching the Georgia Tech-Clemson game now. Georgia Tech just doesn't even look like they have the speed to match up with Clemson. And I'm not comparing Miami to Clemson by no means. I definitely don't think we're that level yet. Miami could always get there, but, it's going to take a lot of winning and recruiting, and, it comes with the process. That's a long spill, but if you look at the next 10 games, 11 games minus Florida State, they're just across the board, quarterback, running backs, wide receivers. The only thing I say Miami has worse than somebody at right now will be offensive line.
Okay.
Miami struggles right now. They're not deep. It's not a rich talent right there. So, that's going to be Miami's weak spot for the rest of the year. And, everybody knew that coming in. So it's not a big change. It's not something that's like, why is the offensive line look worse? Well, last year you lost a lot of seniors. A lot of people left. So, you're not looking at the same offensive line. Now, that's not saying that by the end of the season, going into the ACC title game, if Miami makes it, or into a bowl game, that the line won't look better because, you progress as the season goes on. So, I think Miami can go 11-1. I do. And like I said, that's just because I think Florida State game's a toss-up, and I don't see Miami losing at home to Virginia or Virginia Tech. I just don't. That atmosphere for Virginia game, because I know Virginia is like the favorite right now of the Coastal. I think it's going to look like a Virginia Tech game in 2017. That stadium's going to be packed. It's a Friday night game. It's going to be loud, and it's one of your primetime games. I think Miami's going to bring it, and I think they will convincingly beat Virginia. The only game I would be worried about is going to Pitt at the end of October. That cold weather, it just never sits well with Miami kids. I don't know what it is. We don't do good up north. So, that's one game that I will circle as the slip-up game for Miami. But like I said, talking to the kids and just listening to them mentally, I don't see the laziness. I see more competitive, kids out there fighting every day, and, Miami's looking at 3 4-year seniors that are starters at linebacker. If Miami can stay healthy, they're really, really good. A lot of people question the defensive back position because week 0, I'll say, Miami had 4 cornerbacks, 2 that had the only game experience at all. The other 2 are true freshmen and actually were late arrivals to campus. They didn't get to campus till July. So they didn't have the experience that, early enrollee or summer A kid gets. And both of those true freshmen held their own against a very talented wide receiver group at UF.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's like a positive spot. And then you have Amari Carter and Gervin Hall, who are taking over for Sheldrick Redron and Jaquan Johnson, and they held their own. So there's a lot for that defense to smile about, but there's also a lot that they messed up on. Biting for a play action play that both safeties bit on, and Felipe Franks made a pay for 60 yards. There's a penalty, a pass interference play that, I'm not going to say ref was wrong or right. That's up to them and the ACC and everybody to determine. I'm not. That could have went either way, and it got called for Florida's way. And that's, mistakes and stuff that you got to go back to the drawing boards and rewrite everything up. So hopefully they fix all these miscues, and, Miami's getting back a few more guys against North Carolina, so they'll have a little more depth there at DB. But they're still waiting on an approval through the NCAA for them to clear Avery Huff, which will be a academic redshirt because the NCAA won't clear him this year because he was homeschooled and he was also attending St. Thomas Aquinas. So, the NCAA is kind of, I guess, made him go to an academic redshirt. So Miami wanting to have that linebacker for depth, which is very needed, as they have 3 guys out for the year, or at least 2 that are out for half a year. The other one's out for the whole season. So, I mean, you got Bubba Bolden, who is just waiting for the NCAA to finalize his transfer from USC. Hopefully they hear that, back as soon as possible, but at least he's out practicing. So when he'll come back, he'll at least have that experience and the playbook under wraps. It's a lot that Miami can look forward to. Like I said before, next week will be a telling sign for them. If they can go out and actually handle business against in conference, I don't really want to call them a rivalry because it's not really that like a Virginia Tech to us. But if they can go out and beat North Carolina convincingly, which I do expect, then maybe you're looking at a different, Miami team moving forward. It's hard to really say what the future holds because no other teams have played yet that Miami will face. Florida State plays Saturday, North Carolina plays Saturday. They all play Saturday, so it's kind of hard to see. I don't expect Florida State to be a 5-7 team. 8-4. I'd say at worst 7-6. Because I mean that's just not the standard of Florida football.
Right.
So I don't expect any team in the state of Florida to have a losing record, even though it happened. I think you're looking at a good game Saturday from Florida State and Boise State. It's a home game for Florida State. I just think you're installing a new system still, like last year. And, it takes a lot, man. Kids don't just come out and, bust out on the scene, unless you're like Trevor Lawrence,
Yeah.
So I don't think Florida State will be as bad as they were last year. I will say that. Now,
Do you think the Taggart's on the hot seat if they have another bad season?
I think if Willie Taggart doesn't improve to a winning record this year, I think his seat gets a little hot. That buyout in Tallahassee is steep. So I don't want to say they'll buy him out this year. That's a lot of money. I don't doubt Florida State has it if they wanted him out that bad. But it's hard to really say, man, because of Willie Taggart's track record. He usually does have a bad season and then he improves. So I just don't think, he come from Oregon where he had 1 year. So that, I don't really use that to, kind of use him like, oh, let's see what he did at Oregon because he didn't have enough time there. But if you go back to South Florida, if you go back to Western Kentucky, he's not going against the talent. He's not going against the teams, that he was at those levels. But at the same time, the talent level, is equal on Western Kentucky's opponents, South Florida's opponents, and who Florida State faces. Their talent level is equal, so it's kind of hard to say, he didn't have the talent he has now. You're right, but he also didn't have to face the teams that, he will week in and week out. And I know everybody likes to give the ACC crap, a Duke or, Virginia or so on. I don't care about none of that. They're all Power 5 teams. As you've seen, Clemson was upset twice, like 3 years ago in, a different season, but upsets happen across the board. Anybody can have their day on any given Saturday. That's just football.
Tomorrow.
What's that?
I'm hoping tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Hoping you.
We'll see, man. If they come out flat like they did last year against Virginia Tech and Sanford and some of those teams they struggled on, it's going to be a long night because a lot of people, like Boise State starting a fresh quarterback, first year, but he's got experience around him, so we'll see how that holds up. Obviously freshmen make their mistakes, but can the experience around him help him? That's going to be key. So, but then you also have James Blackman, who had an incredible season in replace of DeAndre Francois when he got hurt. Can he still, come back and have that season? He tried to he entered the transfer portal, almost getting ready to leave, but then he stuck with him. Now he's starting quarterback. So, do they make the offense better for him? Does he make that offense better? There's 100 million questions that will be getting ready to get answered on a Saturday afternoon for Florida State and their fans.
Yeah, and I mean, Eric, I'll be honest with you. I think they win that game by at least 10 or 14 points. I'm not dogging Boise State by any means of the imagination.
Right.
I think Florida State comes out. They have better talent. But I also think that Willie Taggart's going to want to set, get off to a better start than they did last year. They struggled. Their offensive line was absolutely horrendous last year from most of the Florida State games I had a chance to watch. And, I mean, so obviously those guys have matured. They have another year under their belt. They've been able to do that. And I don't see them coming into the season and losing a game right off the bat. And again, I'm not talking about Boise State because I don't get to watch a lot of them playing in. But I think Florida State's better talent-wise. And I think that, they should win that game by at least 2 touchdowns. I think they're favored by 6.5. They should easily cover that this upcoming Saturday. And it's a home game for them because they moved it.
Right.
It's a home game for them now. So there should be no reason why, they shouldn't have, Tallahassee shouldn't show up and, the Garnet and Gold will be out and the Chomp will be out. So, they'll be ready to go.
Yeah, I think they will. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't win by 10, 14 points.
Yeah.
I mean, that should be given. I like Boise State as a, program. I think they're one of the most underrated group of 5 schools. Even I think they're right there with UCF. If you think about it, they have just as much exposure and, they actually went on and beat an Oklahoma team in the Fiesta Bowl. And, I mean, they have just as much, I think, respect as any group of 5 schools should. But like you said, talent-wise, I think, like you said, I think Willie Taggart's going to want to come out and make a imprint on the season on how it should go. He just needs his guys to come out and execute. And one thing, like Florida State's had the defensive backs that should be able to play with anybody, but you haven't seen the mentality that comes with Florida State football.